Hello and welcome to Feminist Economics 101, where young scholars chat with senior scholars about what is feminist economics and how it contributes to their field of study. My name is Erika Aloe, and I am a member of the International Association for Feminist Economics and of its Young Scholars Committee. I have recently received a PhD in socioeconomic and statistical studies from the University of Rome Sapienza. My research interest focuses on care economy, and I share this interest with our guest speaker, Professor Maria Floro. She is professor at the American University in Washington, D.C., and during her career, she worked on several topics, including gender and development strategies, time use, care and unpaid work, vulnerability, poverty, household savings and credit, informal sector, environment and ecological crisis, gender, care, and macro. But we can say that the fil rouge of her work has been development studies from a feminist perspective. Thank you, Professor Floro, for being here today. Let's start our interview with the first question. Professor Floro, can you tell us about what you do and about how it relates to feminist economics?
Thank you, Erica. It's a pleasure for me to join you in this interview. I am a professor of economics at American University. I joined AU in 1988. And since then, I have taught several subjects, several courses, including gender analysis in economics, development microeconomics, economic development, development finance and banking, and macroeconomics. In 2008, I co-founded the graduate program on gender analysis in economics at American University. This is the first program in the United States to offer formal graduate training that integrates theoretical and empirical economics with investigation on the role of gender in labor markets and the economy at large. I have been co-director in the program from 2008 to 2017 and from 2020 to the present. A few years ago, PGAE received funding to strengthen the program, and we were able to launch the PGAE Visiting Scholars Program, which provided training to economics faculty from several developing countries, including Colombia, Sri Lanka, Mongolia, Ghana, and Brazil. So currently, I am a principal investigator and I lead the care work and the economy together with Elizabeth King. This started in 2017, and it created a network of different researchers or scholars from all over the world. The project produces new research and develops innovative analytical tools to advance understanding of care work, care for children, the sick, and disabled, and the elderly, and to demonstrate how integrating care into policy tools such as macroeconomic models can provide a more comprehensive understanding of the policy impacts from a gendered perspective on growth, distribution, and gender inequality. Let me say something a little bit about my research. As a development and feminist economist, my research is motivated by the issues about which I care passionately: equality, special gender equality, well-being, and the reduction of economic vulnerability and poverty. My perspective, approach, and methods of analysis are rooted in my training, experience, and ethics as an economist. Having lived under the Philippine martial law for several years before my doctoral studies at Stanford, I strongly felt the importance of uncovering the causes of impoverishment and social inequities. I therefore decided to use my skills as an economist to probe into the structural factors of poverty and economic disparities that persist in the developing world. I have come to realize that one gains a deeper understanding of these problems and insights by examining the underlying conditions, for they cast light on the important distributional aspects of economic processes. In the past 35 years, I conducted research on gender and development strategies, time use, care and unpaid work, environmental degradation and ecological crisis, vulnerability, food security and migration, poverty, household savings and credit, and the informal sector. Let me talk a little bit about some of these areas of work, if that's okay. One area of my research analyzes women's experiences and the manner in which economic processes, whether it be agricultural commercialization, economic restructuring, globalization, informalization of employment, these interact with social conventions and practices. I explored the ways in which economic globalization has evolved over the past few decades and how the international economic relations has transformed the economic as well as the social, political, and cultural aspects of people's lives. My co-authored book with Lourdes Benaria and Gonzalo Berrick demonstrate that economic issues cannot be isolated from their global and domestic socioeconomic conditions, and that the intersection of gender, economic position, and social identities systematically reproduce different opportunities, constraints, and outcomes for women and men. Another area of my research contributes to the broader effort by scholars and women's groups in making women's work more visible. I make use of time use survey data to deepen our understanding of poverty and well-being and to explore the boundaries between paid and unpaid work. This commitment to make women's work visible has led me to use time use data to identify economic activities that the working poor use for survival and to address the gap in knowledge regarding employment such as home-based work and casual or temporary forms of employment. The third research strand extends my early work on informal markets. I examine the gendered nature of the urban informal economy and the multifaceted dimensions of poverty and vulnerability. My collaborative research project focused on women and men in urban poor communities. This opened a window through which informal markets and institutions can be analyzed from a gendered lens. I did some fieldwork research that I conducted together with several doctoral students and my friend and colleague and co-feminist economist, Lourdes Benaria, in Bolivia, Ecuador, Philippines, and Thailand. This enabled me to examine the gendered experience of the urban poor, particularly the quality of employment, financial stress, food security, and time use. My fourth area of research builds on the other strands of my work. It is to analyze the interconnection between gender, care, and macroeconomics. But I have to do this by building a community of scholars who work collectively under the Care Work and the Economy project, since my skills as a microeconomist would not allow me to achieve the goal of this project. My work in this area is motivated after observing how efforts to reduce gender gaps in economic outcomes and promote inclusive growth and sustainable development are often undermined by the lack of gender awareness in existing approaches to macroeconomic modeling, which have served as the analytical framework for much of economic policymaking. The neglect of care in key policy tools such as macroeconomic models has led to the neglect of addressing care needs in a comprehensive manner. So as a result, we observe now, or we witness, an emerging crisis. In fact, this has been unraveled by the COVID pandemic. And this is manifested in many forms, including heavy work burden and stress, especially for women, and as well as uncared elderly, disabled, sick, and children in society. This crisis has also taken the form of silent protest by women against long working hours performed, leading to the decline in marriage rates, infertility rates, and now in certain countries, some countries, crisis in social reproduction. This project, the Care Work and Economy Project, involves more than 40 scholars around the world. It also engaged with advocacy groups and government officials to provide insight on how care work function in particular contexts, and to use these insights to adapt the tools government use when analyzing and determining economic and social policies.
Thank you very much for this very detailed but also personal answer. This leads me to our second question, that is, how do you think feminism and economics fit together?
Well, my answer to that question is yes and no. In order for them to fit together or make it happen, you have to deconstruct the economic theories as we have learned them, you reframe it, and you rebuild it. See, the conventional economic theories that have been influential in development thinking, which include the Harrod-Domer growth model, the Solow growth model, and so the endogenous or new growth model, and so forth, they were constructed by their authors to focus on those which they viewed as important, namely growth in market output, and to abstract from what are deemed to be less important questions or issues by ignoring them. So the latter include questions such as, are there costs and benefits that may spill to other persons? How are preferences determined? And are there resources or inputs other than purchased goods and services utilized in the maintenance of labor force and reproduction of societies? These models, in my view, have suppressed in their analysis an important aspect of human activities, namely the provisioning for human life and the social relations among individuals that underlie the decisions and transactions in which they are engaged. Feminist thinking helps expose the ideological content in the influential and mainstream models of economic development. For instance, the emphasis on economic growth and on per capita GDP output as the goal to be maximized has made the increase in material output synonymous with the promotion of human well-being. This is a very narrow perspective and narrow goal in my view. This mode of analysis adopted by these influential development models have focused on the act of market exchange, which therefore made a lot of the important economic activities performed by women invisible. Feminists also demonstrate that the development trajectory and accompanying reorganization of production and distribution systems in the economic growth models are delinked from the social context in which they operate. And thus, policies that are promoted by these conventional economic models are detached from their social content. Questions, therefore, regarding distribution and issues of power between transacting parties are avoided by placing, for instance, capital and labor on the same playing field. Feminist scholars point out that the power dynamics embedded in economic research and knowledge building have also to do with the methodologies used in gathering information and evidence. Social science disciplines that study development processes construct the conceptual practices of power by defining the standards of good, what is called good research. And so the methods or the ways in which questions of interest are translated into a plan of investigation or research also carry, in my view, power. For instance, the methods deemed to be objective and scientific in mainstream economics for testing the validity of a theory or evaluating the impact of an economic policy involve mainly, if not exclusively, the use of quantitative statistical analysis. Other possible methodologies, such as detailed observation of certain groups of interest affected by a particular economic policy or development program, are considered by this so-called objective research to be prone to subjective interpretation or judgment, and therefore viewed as not rigorous. In reality, the so-called methodologies are actually value-ridden, since such standards are typically used by the dominant paradigm. It is used to discriminate against or empower specific social groups by interpreting the experiences of everyday life into categories of people that reflect prevailing political arrangement. Feminist work has revealed the potential and actual gender bias in the collection of data, the methods of empirical analysis, and the interpretation of results. The good news is that feminist economics has grown to provide new gender-aware tools, analytical tools, methodologies, and broaden the scope of inquiry to include not only the market economy, but the entire process of social provisioning, which include the unpaid produced goods and services produced by unpaid labor of women.
Given the fact that you have been in the academia for several years, I would like to ask you if you, from your perspective, could tell us something about how do you think that feminist economics has evolved in the last 10, 20 years?
That is a very good question. I think it has become more diverse. In particular, I'm very happy because I come from the South that feminist IAFE in particular and feminist economics in general have really taken great efforts to include voices from the South, to engage with young scholars, not only from the North, but also from the South. And that brings a whole wealth of experience and voice and greater diversity. That said, so in my view, feminist economics has sort of evolved into a very pluralistic sort of field within the economics discipline that reflects different schools of thought and approaches. That said, there is still some underlying tensions because you have different viewpoints based on different schools of thought, women with different experiences. So there's this tension, but in my view, this is a healthy one. Okay, it's I see feminist economics at times converging towards its common goal, but also diverging. So this convergence and divergence is what makes the journey of feminist economics to be enriching and enlightening. For me, it is a sign of true growth.
Yeah. I share this vision, and I'm really happy to be part of it. Um, you mentioned the Association for Feminist Economics in your answer. And I would like to ask you, what role has IAFI played in your career development?
Well, it has provided me a great deal of support. At the time, in the period of my career as a researcher, a scholar, and a professor, it had given me the space to develop my ideas and to not be dissuaded by the challenges and even obstacles that come my way. I received a great deal of mentorship from some of the IAFE members. I have, the exchange of ideas and feedback and constructive criticism allowed me really to develop as a true feminist economist. Um, I think that this has been a really important aspect of my growth as a feminist economist, as a development economist, and as a humanist and a member, a passionate defender and promoter of gender equality and human rights. I've been actively involved in IAFE since the late 90s, and for a period I served as its board member. I also served during that period as associate editor in the IAFE flagship referee journal, Feminist Economics. The journal has certainly made a mark in the economics profession by bringing gender and economics, in particular feminist economics, into prominence. In 2008, I was honored to serve as the Vice President for Development of IAFE. During that 4 years as Vice President for Development, I really, took effort to help to work with my colleagues at IAFE to bring graduate students as well as academics and researchers from the South and transition economies to attend IAFE annual conferences and to participate in other IAFE activities by raising some funds to bring them.
And now it's time for my last question that focuses in particular on the young scholars. What advice would you give to young scholars who are at the beginning of their career, or to your younger self?
Well, throughout my working life, I've been motivated by the issues about which I care passionately. Equality, especially gender equality, well-being, and a reduction of great economic, sorry, let me repeat that, and the reduction of inequality, economic vulnerability, and poverty. So I hope that the young scholars should not be afraid to question, to disagree, to be open-minded, to develop their innovative thinking, and also to work in teams. What I've learned in the last 3 decades is that by understanding different perspectives, one would be able to take their mastery of concepts and tools that you learn in your economics program in the graduate school a step further. You can draw from a number of ideas and comparatively assess what you have learned. I also would like young scholars to continue developing critical analysis of economic issues and development concerns, and not to be afraid to propose gender-aware solutions and policies to address them. Carefully think about how economic policies and development strategies impact various groups in society. But for me, what's really important is how they affect the marginalized, the disenfranchised, and the vulnerable. As critical thinkers, be cognizant of the uses as well as the limitations of a particular theory or method when examining social reality. This is not an easy task, especially for those who want quick answers. I encourage you to probe one another's thinking to uncover your own solutions and ultimately be able to defend them. Be innovative thinkers. Economic thought continually evolves. It requires constant examination given the ever-changing dynamics of the social world. And so, there is not a single answer to a question. Therefore, learn not only on how to apply economic concepts and analytical tools on a problem, but also to take the risk of further developing them to make them more effective, that yield the greatest benefit to the vulnerable and disadvantaged groups and to society at large. I would like to end my interview by saying the challenge we face makes us stronger, makes us more creative, and makes us more passionate about the work we do. Thank you.
Thank you. The time for our chat with Professor Maria Floro is over, and on behalf of the IAFI's Young Scholars Committee, I would like to thank her for her time and for sharing so much of her experience in the field of feminist economics with us. Before closing, I remind you that you can watch the other videos of IAFI's Feminist Economics 101 series on IAFI's YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.